And if you can put it on gallery view so I can see who's in there, that would be great. Hey, Brant, Shabbat Shalom. We're going to get started in just a minute. Just see how things fill up. I think there's some others there, but I'm too far away to see their names. I don't see their faces yet. Oh, here's another one. Maybe they'll turn on their videos and I'll see them. Hi, Rachel.
Hello.
I say Shabbat Shalom, but I know you say back to me Shavua Tov.
Something like that.
We'll explain
but
why.
I'm also wishing you a continued Shabbat Shalom. So.
That's true. And I can also wish you a burgeoning Shavua Tov. We'll explain to everybody in a moment.
Yeah.
Is it 7:20 yet?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to start, everybody. I'm going to lead us in Mincha. Really, it's me help, everyone's doing it on their own, but I'll call the pages. In the Lev Shalem, we're on page 214, the Slim Shalom 226, and the one volume Sim Shalom 558. Ashrei Ashrei Beitecha Ojalu Chasela Ashrem Shekachalo Ashrem Sharonai Elohav Shabbat Shalom Marshall and Gary Dilala David Amin Chalim Tilat Ranai Daber Pi Vivarech Kol Basar Shem Kocho Leolam Ba'ed Banachnu Varechya Mi'atav Yerolam Hallelujah Obal Tzion Goel Ashav Efesh V'Yakov Nium Adonai V'Anizod Briti Hatam Amar Ruch Yesher Lecha Udarai Asher Samti Beficha Lo Yimushu Picha Pizarach V'Ata Kadosh Yoshev Tilod Yisrael V'Kara Zeh El Zeh V'Yamar Kadosh 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 Ranai Tzvah Mochel Aretz Kevodo Mikabling Demi Demi Amrin Kadosh Vati Saini Ruach Veshmacharei Kol Rash Gadol Baruch Vadonai Mim Komo Adonai Yimloch Leolam Vaed Baruch Eloheinu shebaranu lichvodo v'hivdi lanu min hatoim v'natan lanu Torah demet v'chayolam tabetocheinu. V'yivtechu v'chayod eishemecha ki lo azavta dorshecha Adonai Adonai chavetz l'man tzidko yagdil Torah v'yadir. We read from Parshat Ki Tavo, getting close to the end of Devarim, which means it must be time for the new Jewish year. If you're in the Eitz Chaim, it's on page 1140. If you're just in a Bible, it's the 26th chapter of the book of Devarim. Does anyone in front of them have the divisions for weekday laning? I think I remember where to stop, but I'm looking at a Chumash and not a Siddur that has them. If anybody...
I can help you with that. Just one second. I have a sheet with it. But
Great.
So the first one will end at sentence 3.
Yeah.
Second one will end at sentence 11.
3.
You got it?
3:11 and 15.
Oh, right, because this is one of those readings that goes into the second aliyah of Ki Tavo. Okay, thank you, Marshall. This is the ritual that our ancestors would recite when they would bring bikurim, when they would bring their first fruits to the temple. So it's a reading that has resonance on Pesach because it forms the core of the Magid section, Arami Oved Avi. We'll get there in a second. And also is related to Shavuot because it's on Shavuot that these fruits would be brought. And it's one of the most interesting instructions that God gives to Moses to give the Israelites for how they're going to observe this new religion of Judaism when they get to Jerusalem, agriculturally and historically. והיה כי תבוא אל הארץ אשר אלוהיך נותן לך נחלה בירשתה וישבת בה ולקחת מראשית כל פרי אדמה אשר תביא מארצך אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך ושמת ותנה והלכת אל המקום אשר יבחר אדוני אלוהיך לשכן שמו שם ובאת אל הכהן אשר יהיה בימים ההם ואמרת אליו הגדתי היום לאדוני אלוהיך כי באתי אל הארץ אשר נשבע אדוני לאבותינו לתת לנו. Once again, I forgot to say לעסוק בדברי תורה, so I'll go backwards and say it. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו מצוותיו וציוונו לעסוק בדברי תורה. ולקח הכהן התנא מידיך והניחו לפני מזבח אדוני אלוהיך וענית ואמרת לפני אדוני אלוהיך ארמי עובד אבי וירד מצרמה ויגור שם במתי מעט ויהי שם לגוי גדול עצום ורב ויראו אותנו המצרים וינונו וידנו עלינו עבודה קשה ונצעק אל אדוני אלוהי אבותינו וישמע אדוני את קולנו וירא את עוניינו ואת עמלנו ואת לחצנו ויוציאנו אדוני ממצרים ביד חזקה בזרוע נטויה ובמראה גדול ובאותות ובמופתים ויביאנו אל המקום הזה וייתן לנו את הארץ הזאת ארץ זבת חלב ודבש ועתה הנה הבאתי את ראשית פרי האדמה אשר נתת לי אדוני והנחתו לפני אדוני אלוהיך והשתחווית לפני אדוני אלוהיך ושמחת בכל הטוב אשר נתן לך אדוני אלוהיך ולביתך אתה והלוי והגר אשר בקרבך. Third aliyah, which is really the second aliyah of the Parshat Ki Tavo. Ki techalel aser et kol masar tvuatecha bashana hashlishit shnat hamaser v'natata laleviim v'natata lalevi lager liatom lialmana v'yachlu v'sharecha v'saveu v'amarta lifnei אדוני אלוהיך ביארתי הקודש מן הבית וגם נתתיו ללוי ולגר ליתום ולאלמנה ככל מצוותך אשר ציוויתני לא עברתי ממצוותיך ולא שכחתי לא אכלתי בעוני ממנו ולא ביארתי ממנו בטמא ולא נתתי ממנו למת שמעתי בקול אדוני אלוהי עשיתי ככל אשר ציוויתני השקיפה ממעון קודשך מן השמיים וברך את עמך את ישראל ואת האדמה אשר נתת לנו כאשר נשבעת לאבותינו ארץ זבת חלב ודבש. I led the Rabbi Chorny the service this morning on the field, it is indeed very lovely to be praying with Jews in person, but it's also inorganic because we're together. Everyone is being asked to hold back in their singing and to kind of like almost like whisper sing. And so it's nice to be in the sanctuary and know that I'm not endangering anyone by lifting my voice and laning it with a full voice. So there are definitely pluses and minuses to gathering in person during a pandemic. Okay, we're going to go to the Amidah for Mincha, which we'll do quietly. It is on page 223 in the Lev Shalem, 234 in the Slim Shalom, 574 in the one-volume Sim Shalom, and the Amidah is said while standing. If you're still davening, please continue at your own pace. We continue with Tzidkatcha, 230 in Lev Shalom, 239 in the Slim Shalom. I don't have the page number for that in the Sim Shalom, but it should be right before the Kaddish Shalom. Tzidkatcha tzedek le'olam, v'tortcha emet, v'tzidkatcha Elohim ad marom asher asid gdolot Elohim michamocha, tzidkatcha kaharei el, mishpatecha tahom rabba, Adam ubehema toshia Adonai. Please rise for Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol lategel l'seh reshit shelo asanu kuyar tolsamana Nachnu korim shacharim u'modim lefnei melech machayam lachim hakadosh baruch hu. Kakatu betoratecha Adonai yimloch leholam boed v'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom ahu yiyeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. Can someone tell me if it looks like there's a minyan gathered total? 'Cause I can't see the numbers of people who are there. I only see 6 faces on the screen, but are there others who are not there?
There's 10.
There's not 10.
We got a minion?
Yes.
Okay, good. Kadisha Tom Warner's Kaddish, page 232, page 249, or page 600. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah v'alma divrach hirutei v'amlich malchutei v'chayechon of yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael v'agala v'zman kari v'yimru amen Yehei shemei rabbah mevorach leolam leomel maya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'yimeru amen Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen Oseh shalom v'mamal hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru amen. Maybe seated. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And I was joking with Rachel before, our new intern at Temple Beth Am, not new to Temple Beth Am, but new to the internship, that I said Shabbat Shalom to her, and her response might have been back to me Shavua Tov, because Rachel is joining us from Chicago, correct?
Correct.
Where she's spending riding out at least this stage of the pandemic to be with her family. So when she teaches on the Shabbat afternoon slot, what she's about to do, it'll still be Shabbat for us, but already deep into the weekday and the work week for her. So welcome again, Rachel, to the Beth Am community and to the clergy team. We're excited to learn with you, learn from you, and have you be a part of this community for these years. And I turn the microphone over to you as you do some teaching and just guide us as you would like to guide us. I'm going to go sit back there while you're teaching, but I will be able to watch you and listen closely.
Great. Thank you so much, Yasher Koach, Rabbi Kligfeld, and with Mincha and the leaning. So as Rabbi Kligfeld already mentioned, in Kitavo, we hear about the reading and procedure for when the first fruits are brought to the temple once the Israelites are able to move into and settle the land. If anybody has the source sheet with them, it's a good time to pull it out, but I'll also read through the sources. Beautiful, amazing. You're the most prepared students I've ever had. So we'll go through it together. And I ended up choosing a passage basically where the recitation about the first fruits is discussed in the Talmud that I think has some resonance for what we're experiencing today. So I'm going to pick on my husband, Andrew, for a second, who's also on the call with us. And Andrew, I'm wondering if you can read the recitation in the always imperfect English translation I have here. For if you imagine you're bringing the first fruits to the Kohen. Andrew happens to be a Kohen, but he can play the other role in the script for now. So nice and dramatically, if you can read the first source for us.
Thank you. You're doing great. Deuteronomy 26, 5-10. My father was a wandering Aramean. He went down to Egypt with meager numbers and sojourned there. But there he became a great and very populous nation. The Egyptians dealt harshly with us and oppressed us. They imposed heavy labor upon us. We cried to the Lord, the God of our fathers, and the Lord heard our plea and saw our plight, our misery, and our oppression. The Lord freed us from Egypt by a mighty hand, by an outstretched arm and awesome power, and by signs and portents. He brought us to this place and gave us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. So now here I have brought the first fruits of the soil, which you, Lord, have given me.
Thank you very much. So I think of this as kind of a giant thank you note to God that you would be bringing these first fruits to the temple. And instead of just saying, here you go, we have this pomp and circumstance that comes along with it. And it may sound familiar to you from the Passover Seder, as Rabbi Kligfeld already mentioned. The particular line of it I'd like us to focus in on at the moment is where at the very end it says, I have brought the first fruits of the soil, or Reshit Pri Ha'adamah. And what ends up getting discussed in the Talmud in Masechet Menachot is this question of if you have something that has grown not literally in this soil, can you still say this whole pomp and circumstance recitation when you bring it to the temple? So I'll now look at the second source from the Babylonian Talmud, Menachot 84b, and there's a disagreement essentially about what happens in certain situations. So they say it's taught in one Braita with regard to produce that grew on a roof, or that grew in a ruin, or that grew in a flower pot, or on a ship. The owner brings it to the temple and recites the accompanying passage. That's what the first Braita said. Another Braita taught with regard to such fruits, the owner brings them, but does not recite that whole passage. So any gardeners here? Right, so we know even from methods today that sometimes you can grow something in containers, raised beds, like a grow bag that you'll put somewhere that's not necessarily literally in the soil. And they're acknowledging that there's these cases where something might sprout up and it won't literally be planted in the ground. So let's just, to try and understand the arguments on both sides, what's a reason or two why it might still make sense to give that whole recitation for something that grew, say, in a flower pot? Grant, yeah, go ahead. I think you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, because you're still thankful whether it grew in the ground or in the pot. You're still thankful for what came forth, so you should give some sort of thanks for it.
Absolutely. Great reason. I'm sold. Marshall?
Well, of course, we have the phrase Reshit Pri Ha'adamah, and although the Pri is in Smichut, it might also just say Reshit Pri, or Reshit HaPerot, beginnings the first of the fruits. And how do I have different types of fruits? Well, one type might come from the Adamah, others may not come from the Adamah. So why limit myself by the Adamah portion?
Great, beautiful textual analysis. And I'll also add that the consensus is they're speaking about the 7 species. So there's these very special kinds of fruits that you're harvesting in the land. And, if you have a tasty fig or date or olive, kind of, maybe who cares where it came from? You grew these particular fruits, and we're emphasizing the fruits that we're bringing. So why not give this whole recitation? Great. So let's just quickly think on the other side, maybe even if you don't agree with it, play devil's advocate for a second. Why might someone argue you shouldn't give this whole argument? The whole recitation.
So if we read something that's not on your source sheet, but the beginning of the parsha, so I'll just read the English translation. It says, "You shall take some of every first fruit of the soil, which you harvest from the land that the Lord your God is giving you." So it seems to be pretty clear that it's from the land, and therefore you would argue that if you hydroponically grew it, it wouldn't count.
Okay, another great argument that there is something special about literally the land that is supposed to be acknowledged when you bring the fruits to the Kohen and say this thing. So we're going to move on to how the sages resolve this situation, which in very very rabbinic logic is kind of a workaround where they say there isn't actually a disagreement. They say there's no contradiction between the two Brightot rulings regarding the flower pot. The first Breita, stating that you would recite the passage, is referring to a perforated flower pot, one with holes in the bottom or the side somewhere. And the second Breita is saying you don't say the passage is referring to an unperforated flower pot. So they basically say, no, two different situations. If there's enough holes in the flower pot where the plant still can draw nutrients from the ground, even if it's a bit separated through the flower pot, then that's a situation where you would still recite the passage. So agricultural reasoning aside, the reason that I chose this teaching tonight is because I think if we look at it symbolically, it speaks to maybe the tensions that we're holding in this time while we are somewhat isolated. So if you imagine each of us is our own flower pot, operating somewhat more independently in these days, still trying to sustain ourselves and grow and build the fruits of our lives and our families. If we perforate our flower pots, so to speak, and reach out to draw some of the nutrients that we usually need to sustain ourselves, then that's how we can still harvest some of the blessings that we are seeking in our lives in these still strange times. Even though it's gone on for some time, I think it still really just doesn't feel normal to me. So I at least am reading this teaching as an example of how even in our separate little pods, we can be still reaching out for sustenance in these times. And I'd be curious to hear from just a couple of you. I know we need to get on to Mariv and some other things, but maybe just one or two ideas about, how are the ways that you're reaching out your metaphorical roots in these times, perforating your spiritual flower pots, and what's nourishing you? Dacarax, yeah. Was there a raised hand from the Dacarax? I couldn't quite.
No, I raised my hand.
There, go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Obviously, there are lots of opportunities for learning. I've actually been amazed. First of all, the shul is doing a wonderful job in making offerings available far beyond what we used to have. We've adapted the things we used to do, like the Rabbi's Rashi class switched pretty easily, and some of the other classes switched, but then there have been all these other offerings. But beyond the shul and beyond even Jewish learning, of which there's an amazing amount, way too much. In fact, so much that I'm now just deleting the emails without even filing them for future use. And it's not just me, but I think it's a way in which everyone in the entire world has quickly adapted and spread, to use your metaphor, spread our roots far, far beyond what was directly in contact with us before.
Beautiful.
I was going to say the same thing. I mean, Larry did a better job than me, but yeah, there's just so much available now. Sure, I'm glad I'm not working these days. I mean, it allows me to read a lot of it, but I can't imagine if you're working full time, how you can take so much more in. It's a beautiful situation right now for this reason.
Right. Marshall, yeah, last word.
Yeah, I was online this morning with the Rabbi Ed Feinstein from Valley Beth Shalom for his Shabbat morning with the rabbi. And he talked about how does one get ready for the Yamim Noraim. And he came up with several ideas, and one of which was to start every day with a prayer of thankfulness. And thankfulness that we have people we can be with. Even though we may be separated physically, we can still be in contact with people. And secondly, he talked about start each day with study. And I guess I'm fortunate that I have a chance to be in Chavruta with several people every single week. So that in effect gives an extra charge to life, that we could oftentimes get overwhelmed by what's happening on the outside. And this, in effect, by studying, it gives us a sense of perspective every single day. Gamze Ya'avor, even this terrible time that we're in right now, from a health-wise, pandemic-wise, this also will pass and we'll get through it.
Can you hear at zone? Can you hear at zone? So thank you all. I'm glad to learn a little bit more about you, hearing some of those ways you're sustaining yourselves in these times. And my hope and blessing for all of us in the coming weeks is that we will continue to find the beautiful fruits to harvest and to keep drawing the sustenance that we can to support ourselves and the people who are very close to us, even amidst the hardships. So we will now move on to our Ma'ariv service. And we would begin on, Rabbi Kligfeld, did you need to add anything else before we move to Ma'ariv?
Just a yasher koach to you and a thank you for that image of perforating the pot that's holding the plant to allow the nutrients in. That breakage is significant. So thank you. That will stick with me. The whole thing will stick with me. That image is really wonderful. Do you want me to call pages from the 3 Siddurim, or do you have them?
I have the cheat sheet. If I mess something up, you are welcome to correct me.
Okay.
So we'll begin on page 264 in Lev Shalom, 281 in Slim Shalom, and page 200 in the other Sim Shalom. How did you refer to it, Rabbi Kligfeld?
Sim Shalom. Sim versus Slim.
Sim versus Slim. Okay. And a reminder that since we're not saying Baruch Hu, you are welcome to stay seated until the whispered Amidah, as you so please. Vehu rachum yichaper avon v'lo yashchit, behir bala shiva po v'lo ya'ir kol chamato, Adonai Hoshia hamelech ya'anenu v'yom korenu, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech. Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uven laila, Adonai tzevahot shemo, El chai v'kayam tamid limolch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv haravim. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל, אל מלך נאמן, שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. אני אדוני אליכם, אמת ואמונה כל סופכם. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם, והושב בני ישראל לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם. מי כמוך בעלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות תוסיף אלה. מלכותך ראו בניך בוקע ים לפני משה זה אלינו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי ודע אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. We'll continue with Hashkivenu on page 267, 284, or 206. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom. Ushmor tzeitenu voenu l'chayim u'l'shalom me'ata v'ad olam. Baruch ata Adonai shomer amo Yisrael da'ad. כי המלכות שלך היא ולעולמי עד תמלוך בכבוד, כי אין לנו מלך אלא אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני המלך בכבודו תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ועל כל מעשיו. So we are skipping Chatzi Kaddish and moving to the whispered Amidah that begins for the end of Shabbat, beginning on page 270, 286, or 210. And just a reminder to include the extra passage for the conclusion of Shabbat. Ose shalom bimramav, Yase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimramav, Yase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. If you are still davening your Amidah, please feel free to continue at your own pace. We will continue with the concluding passages at the end of Shabbat, which Rabbi Kligfeld, correct me if this is wrong, but I believe we jumped to page 216 in Lev Shalem, and I'm not sure I have a page number for Slim Shalom, and it would be jumping to 684 in Sim Shalom.
In Slim Shalom, one second, I just didn't have it in front of me. In Slim Shalom, it's the middle of 292.
אורך ימים משפיעהו וערהו בישועתי, אורך ימים משפיעהו וערהו בישועתי. ואתה קדוש יושב תמות ישראל, וקרא זה על זה ויאמר,
קדוש, 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 נא סמוך.
ותישאן ירח ושמע אחר כל רעש גדול,
ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו.
ונעים לך לעולם ועד. ויבטחו בך ידי שמך, כי לא עזבת את דורשך אדוני, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה וידיר. We will continue with Aleinu on 113 in Lev Shalem, and 281 in Lev Shalem, 297 in Slim Shalom, 696 in Sim Shalom. Aleinu l'shabach l'adon hakol. ונאמר היה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Psalm for Elul is on page 113 in Lev Shalem, page 40 in Sim Shalom, and I'm again missing a Slim Shalom page if you have one, Rabbi Kligfeld.
Page 80.
Great, thank you.
David Adonai Urivi Shimi Adonai. Shifti beveit Adonai kol yimei chazai chayai lachzo.
האמנתי לראות בטוב אדוני בארץ חיים, קווה אל אדוני, חזק ואמיץ ליבך וקווה אל אדוני. Is there anybody who is desiring to lead us in Mourner's Kaddish? Go for it. Backrack family.
No. Yeah. Ready? Yikadali Kadash Me Rabba. Yana Mikote, Minok Makote, Hayachon, and Michon, the Hay, the Kabit Israel, the Man Serene, Grenu, Amen. Yehesh Mai Rabba, Barak, Maya Maya. Yiparak, Bishtabak, Bituman, Bitnase, Bitadar, Bitalel, Bitalal, Shmei, Kadasho, Baruch, Layla, Min Kobra, Tam, Shushbachata, Benechamata, Damiam, Bimar, Bimru, Amen. The Heish Rabba Rabba Mishmayan, the Chaim Alena Belko Israel, Bimru Amen. Osei Shalom Bimamav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Alena Belko Israel, Bimru Amen. Osei Shalom Bimamav, Hu Yaseh Shalom
Amen. Amen. So we have now arrived at Havdalah, and Rabbi Kligfeld, will you be running the Havdalah show?
I can, or you can. Your choice, Rachel.
I'm happy to do it in case you need to slip out early or anything.
I'm not rushed, but I'm also happy to do it. Do you want to do rock, paper, scissors?
Sure.
All right, I've never done a rock, paper, scissors Zoom. Okay.
Is the winner leading or the loser leading?
That's a good question. It's a bracha to lead. So I think the winner gets the lead. Is it just one and done?
Great.
One and done. No 2 out of 3. Okay.
Great.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
You have paper?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's you, right? I have rock. Hine el Yeshuati Evtach velo evchad Ki ozi vezimrad ya Adonai vayehili Lishua Ushaftem mayim besason Mimayne ya Yeshua Ladonai ya Yeshua Alamcha berchatecha sela Adonai tzvaot imanu miskav lanu Elohei Yaakov sela Adonai tzvaot Ashrei Adam boteach bach Adonai Yoshia Hamelech Yaneinu v'yom koreinu La Yehudim Hayta Ora Vesimcha Vesason V'yikar Kein Tiyeh Lanu Kos Yeshuot Esa Uv'shem Adonai Ekra Yainanai Yananai Nai Nai Baruch atah Adonai Mochalam Borei Priagafen Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Halam Borei Minei Besamim. Hope you can smell through the Zoom. Baruch atah Adonai Mochalam Borei Miarei Ha'esh Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam avdil ben kodesh ben elochoshech ben Yisrael mimin yom hashvili sheish yemei hamaseh Baruch atah Adonai hamavdil ben kodesh lecho hamavdil ben kodesh lecho chatoteinu yimcho Zareinu v'chaspeinu yarbe yarbe kacho bekakochavim balayla. Zareinu v'chaspeinu yarbe yarbe kacho bekakochavim balayla. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Atishbi, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Atishbi, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hagiladi. B'meheira yavo Elinu, Mashiach ben David, b'meheira yavo Elinu. Mashiach ben David. Shavua Tov, everyone. Good vach. Have a great week of learning, a great week of perforated plant beds, allowing the nutrients in. Some of you may go on to zoom out, and you can say hello to Rabbi Schatz and Rabbi Chorny there. Yeshachok to Rachel. Laila Tov.
Nesiya Tova.
Toda, Larry. Toda, toda.
Give our very best to Noah also for a very successful first term at Harvard.
Amen, amen.